Alright cat lovers, welcome back to the YouTube channel, and we're back with another installment in our New Players Tips and Tricks series. And today we're going to be delving into some early gear options to get you up and running. And to that end, we're talking about Ambuscade. And with the devs having recently refreshed the reward system on Ambuscade, it's the perfect place to start even for solo players. Today we're going to talk about the hows, the wheres, and the whys to Ambuscade. We're going to discuss how you should prioritize your rewards as a new player. We're going to build out two of the most important Ambuscade capes for any job's arsenals, and then we're going to go over the very basics of gear swapping so you can start using all this new gear like a pro. And don't feel intimidated by Ambuscade even if you're a solo player. I recommend you start on a Volume 2, normal difficulty, give it a crack. If you win, bump your difficulty up to difficult, or if you lose, bump it down to easy for the next run until you find where you're the most comfortable. Once you find that spot, just keep grinding, focus for a few days, and you're going to come out way stronger than you were going in. So let's dive in. Oh, Ambuscade. A piece of content most 11 players spend an unhealthy amount of time farming. And I can hear you asking, Ambuscade? What the hell is an Ambuscade? Well, Ambuscade is a rotating monthly battlefield that you can access in Moira. This means that at monthly maintenance, the notorious monsters that appear in Ambuscade will be swapped out and will remain the same encounters for the entirety of the month. These battles are typically gimmick heavy and some can be much more annoying than others. Ambuscade is broken down into 10 different difficulty levels. There's the Intense Ambuscade, which is a more difficult battle split into 5 different difficulties, and then you have the Normal Ambuscade, a lighter fight, which is also split into 5 difficulties. Ambuscade has no time lockouts and can be farmed as much or as little as you like, whenever you want. And because there's so many different difficulties, there's definitely an Ambuscade that's right for you. Okay, so now you know what it is, but I hear you asking, why the hell would I bother farming Ambuscade? And you're going to farm it because Ambuscade rewards both intermediate gear, like the Ambuscade armor sets, and endgame tier equipment that everybody ends up using, like the Ambuscade weapons and the back pieces. In addition, you can make a lot of gil by spamming Ambuscade. You know all those Rima materials you need to make ultimate weapons, like Alexandrite, heavy metals, HP Bald, ancient currency, what have you? Almost all of it up for sale is farmed out of Ambuscade. So whether you're just starting and need some new gear, or you're established and need some Rima materials or gil, you should be in Ambuscade cranking. Okay, so we know the what and the why, but there's still the very important how. How do you participate in Ambuscade? Well, that's easy. First, you need general access to Ambuscade, and you get that by clearing the basic Records of Eminence quest under Quests, Objectives, Tutorial, Basics, Stepping into an Ambuscade. This directs you to talk to Gorpa Mascorpa in Moira, who will talk your ear off about Ambuscade and his best buddy Abdhaljs. Once that's done, and it's going to take a while to be done, but he'll shut up eventually. To actually enter an Ambuscade, you're going to need the temporary key item Ambuscade Primer Volume 1 to challenge Intense Ambuscade, or Ambuscade Primer Volume 2 to challenge Normal Ambuscade. You get these temporary key items as a Records of Eminence reward from the Ambuscade Primer objectives under Objective List, Content, Ambuscade. At first, you'll only have access to the daily primer objectives, but once cleared, you'll unlock the standard objectives for the month. The standard objectives will repeat, so you don't have to keep resetting them. The Ambuscade objective typically requires you to kill a set number of monsters that are the same type as the Ambu NMs. The standard objective is typically 3 kills of mobs that grant EXP, while the daily objective is just 1 kill and it doesn't require the mob to give EXP. How handy. With primer in hand, or in inventory, head back to Moira and click that book in front of Gorpa Mascorpa to sign up and be dragged into Ambuscade. And just note, you can only have one of each primer at a time, so you'll have to farm a new one between runs, but you don't lose your primer if you fail. You only lose it when you win. Alright, now we know how to get into Ambuscade, but what exactly do we get for winning? Well, when you win, you'll be rewarded with 2 different currencies. The primary currency is hallmarks. You're rewarded a set number of hallmarks based on the difficulty that you defeated. The higher the difficulty, the higher the hallmarks. But you'll also be rewarded with a secondary currency called gallantry. Now, the base gallantry is also based off the difficulty, but it's designed to encourage group play. If you challenge Ambuscade solo, you get nothing. You lose. Good day, sir. But no, you get no gallantry at all if you win solo. However, you'll get a gallantry bonus with each player you add to the party, reaching the maximum bonus at a party full of 6. Once earned, you can spend the currency with Gorpa Masorpa. There is a category for both hallmarks and gallantry. Each of these shops operates exactly as if you were spending gil. You buy an item and it deducts the price from your currently held hallmarks or gallantry. But the total hallmarks category is special. This category's rewards are like prizes for hitting certain hallmark thresholds for the month. Selecting a prize from this category does not spend any of your currently held hallmarks. It's just free. So load up everything from this category. And it doesn't matter if you currently hold the total required for the prize. It just matters that you've earned that many for the month. So theoretically, you could be holding 0 hallmarks because you spent them all, but you'll still qualify for every prize in the list if you've earned like 25,000. And one special feature about the Ambuscade shop is that it has limited stock. You can only buy a certain amount of each reward per month, but the shop is restocked at monthly maintenance. And this next point is extremely important. Your hallmarks and gallantry do not carry over to the next month. All of your currency will reset to 0 at the monthly maintenance. It's as if the content has a hard reset. So if you haven't spent your hallmarks or gallantry before the servers go down for maintenance, it's gone. Now, if you've clicked into Gorpa's shop, you've seen that there is a ton of stuff. So how do you budget your currency as a new player? Well, that's really what this chapter is about. We're going to go over the top 4 Ambuscade priorities a new player should be focusing on so you're spending your hallmarks and gallantry in a way that can get you the most benefit possible. Priority number 1 is an Ambuscade weapon. A weapon will likely be the biggest upgrade you can get out of Ambuscade, and luckily for you, you're not going to spend a single hallmark to get one. Everything you're going to need is in the total hallmarks category. You'll need to get the Ambuscade voucher weapon and the Abdhaljs nuggets, gems, animas, and matters. Once you've hit 9,600 total hallmarks, you can grab it all from the total hallmarks category. Trade your weapon voucher to Gorpa to pick your base weapon, and then you're going to trade that base weapon with the Abdhaljs nuggets to upgrade the weapon to stage 2. Next, take the stage 2 weapon, trade it with the Abdhaljs gems to get stage 3, etc. Now, you're not going to be able to make the final stage without a pulse weapon. These are a kind of rare weapon and a pain in the ass to get, and we're not really covering that here. But even at the penultimate stage, these weapons are going to be a big upgrade for new and returning players. Now, if you're having trouble deciding on which weapon to grab, let me give you a little guidance. If you're on a job that can use the sword, you want the sword. The sword ultimately evolves into the Nagling, which is one of the best weapons in the game. The polearm is another solid choice. You're going to see samurais and warriors using that all the time in endgame. The club gets a lot of mileage. Red mages and blue mages love it, even in endgame. And the dagger has its uses as well. But even if you make the wrong choice, you're going to get another free set of materials next month. In fact, if you're good about doing your ambuscade and squirreling away your weapon vouchers and materials, you'll probably never have to spend a single hallmark for an ambuscade weapon. Weapon in hand, let's talk about priority number 2, a new set of armor. And lucky for you, the base set of armor is also free from the total hallmarks category. At a measly 870 total hallmarks, you can grab a full set from Gorpa by grabbing the Chit armor vouchers, and this even includes a ring. Just like the weapon, trade the Chit vouchers to Gorpa and choose whatever piece you like. But this is only the base version. This gear can all upgrade to +2. In order to upgrade, you need to purchase either Abdhaljs metals or Abdhaljs fibers from Gorpa. Each set uses one or the other, so you're going to need to look up which material you need before you start buying them. It takes 5 upgrade materials to take a piece to +1 and an additional 10 to upgrade the pieces to +2. You can get 5 of each upgrade material for free from the total hallmarks, but you'll have to actually buy the rest from the hallmarks category. Each Abdhaljs metal or fiber costs 100 hallmarks apiece, and Gorpa can sell a total of 125 of each per month. So you're looking at 2,000 hallmarks to +1 your set, and an additional 5,000 to plus to it, so 7,000 total. But if you already farmed your hallmarks for the weapon, you've got no worries. You already have enough to get a full plus 2 set. It's really not that bad of a deal. Now, which armor set you're going to choose is going to depend on your main job, but I can give you a little bit of guidance here as well. If you're playing a job that can use the Flamma and the Celevius set, I recommend getting the Celevius feet with the Weaponskill damage on them and get the rest Flamma, including the ring, Flamma ring. If you're on a job that uses the Ayanmo set, that's probably the set you want, and if you're on a job that uses the Mumu set, that's probably the set you want. There's also some uses for Inyanga and Jikari out there, but really that Flamma, the Ayanmo, and the Mumus are real standouts. Alright, with weapon and armor secure, it's on to priority number 3, Ambuscade Cape materials. Ambuscade capes are job-specific capes that not only have useful stats on the main cape, you also get to add 5 different augmented stats which you get to customize. As a result, most jobs end up making multiple Ambuscade capes for different situations. I'm talking 5, 6, sometimes even more capes for one job. It can get pretty nutty. You can only buy enough cape materials for 3 capes per month, and because you're going to end up making so many capes, I recommend spending all of your extra hallmarks and gallantry on cape materials until Gorpa runs dry. You can buy 3 Ambuscade voucher backs from the hallmarks category, and then you can buy a set number of Abdhaljs thread, Abdhaljs dust, Abdhaljs sap, Abdhaljs dye, and Abdhaljs resin from both the hallmarks and gallantry categories. These are the materials you need to add the augments and level them up on your capes. You're going to need 20 thread, 20 dust, 10 sap, 10 dye, and 5 resin per cape to max out all of the augments. So keep that in mind when you're budgeting your hallmarks and gallantry. And for some reason, you can actually only buy 20 dyes per month. So you can buy enough of the other materials for 3 full capes, but only enough dyes for 2 full capes. I don't know why they did that, but keep that in mind as well when you're budgeting your hallmarks and gallantry. But really, you're going to need a lot of cape materials in your life. So before you move on to the next priority, buy all of this stuff each month until you have a large stash. And don't worry, if you're wondering what kind of capes to make, we're going to cover a little bit of that in the next chapter. And now with all of your gear needs met for the month, it's time to focus on priority 4, making that gill. If you have any hallmarks or gallantry left after buying all your cape materials, now it's time to start buying Rima upgrade materials. Now obviously if you're building an ultimate weapon, probably focus on that. But if you want to maximize your gill return for your hallmarks and gallantry, I recommend starting first with the Alexandrite. Buy all of that down. It's relatively cheap per piece, so you end up with tons of stacks and you can sell them and you're going to be happy. Next, I would focus on the HP Abdhaljs. Similar to the Alexandrite, it's pretty cheap and you end up with stacks and stacks that you can sell, so you end up making a ton of gill. After that, I go with Baitetsu typically. They have a relatively high price and they sell fast, and maybe the ancient currency thereafter. And honestly, if you still have hallmarks and gallantry after those 4 categories, you're probably not new and you don't need my advice anyway. So when you're focusing on gill, I'd go Alexandrite to HP Abdhaljs to Baitetsu's to ancient currency, and then after that, whatever you want to do, go hog wild. And as a little bonus before we move on to the next section, I just want to point out a few Ambuscade rewards you should make sure to grab every single month. So number 1 is the Abdhaljs seal. This is under the total hallmarks category, and Abdhaljs seals will multiply the number of points you get for a successful Ambuscade run. You can never get enough of these, so don't leave it on the table. Make sure you remember to grab it. Number 2 is the Trust Primer out of the total hallmarks category. The Trust Primer is what grants you the trust points that are part of the recent Trust upgrade. You can use those points to power your trusts up. They're extremely limited in number. You can only get, 5 per month now, so don't leave those on the table either. In number 3, and this one's really important, is under the gallantry section, there's an item called the Abdhaljs Needle. You can only get 2 of these per month. They're 1,000 gallantry each. These are super powerful because they allow you to change an augment on an Ambuscade cape. So let's say you made a cape and you leveled it up and you spent all these hallmarks and it's maxed out, and you realize, oh my goodness, you picked the wrong stat for one of your categories. The Abdhaljs Needle will allow you to change that augment to another one in that same category, and it'll stay the same level and everything. So it can save you a lot of grief in the long run. I've used a ton of them to fix mistakes I've done on Ambuscade capes. So grab those and squirrel them away. And that does it for our Ambuscade priorities. So remember, secure your weapon, secure your gear, spend the rest of your hallmarks and gallantry on all the cape materials, and once you have those secured, then focus on some guild items. Alexandrite, HP Bound, buy Tetsus and Ancient Currencies, and just have some fun doing Ambuscade. Oh shoot, I almost forgot one of the can't miss rewards, the voucher replica from Total Hallmarks. You might think these are just lock style level 1 weapons, but I promise you there's going to be a time where you need all jobs level 1 weapons from just about every category, like for things like Abyssia procking. So make sure you grab that one every month and just squirrel it away and save it till you need it. Alright, now it's time to get into the fun stuff. We're going to build a couple of Ambuscade capes to really take our gear to the next level. As mentioned, most jobs end up using loads of Ambuscade capes, and it can be pretty daunting figuring out how to customize your capes for what situations. So in this section, we're going to go over two of the most ubiquitous capes for all jobs, your TP cape and your Weaponskill damage cape. And these templates will work for every job, so let's build them. As we discussed in the last chapter, you get to add augments to your cape with the Abdhaljs thread, dust, sap, dye, and resin. Each material represents a category of augments that you get to choose from. So when you trade your cape and say an Abdhaljs thread to Gorpa, he'll show you the list of augments linked to the thread, and you get to choose whichever one suits your needs. Once you choose, you trade the cape again with the rest of the same material to level the augment up. And you don't have to finish the augment in one go. You can trade as many materials as you have available at the time. And you can only choose one augment per category, so you only get one of them out of the thread category. And remember, it's 20 dust, 20 thread, 10 dye, 10 sap, and 5 resin to max out an Ambuscade cape. For our first cape, we'll build out our Weaponskill damage cape. This cape is intended to maximize your crank when using your weapon skills. Most Weaponskill capes look exactly the same. Your augments are going to be thread plus 20 base stat, dust plus 20 attack/accuracy, sap, Weaponskill damage plus 10%, dye plus 10 base stat, and resin 5% damage taken reduction. If you don't know which base stat to choose, you can either go A, strength, for a general purpose weapon skill that you'll use for various different weapon skills. Strength is a pretty safe bet. A lot of the best weapon skills use strength as their main modifier anyway, plus strength naturally increases your attack, so it's just kind of a good fit. Or B, if you have a specific weapon skill in mind, check BG-Wiki and look at the stat modifier for your weapon skill. Choose whichever base stat is the highest modifier for that weapon skill. So let's say we're doing Savage Blade, you'll see its stat modifiers are 50% strength and 50% mind. In this case, you're going to pick strength because it's the same percent as mind anyway, and strength naturally increases your attack, so it's the way to go. But let's say you're doing Rudra Storm. Its highest stat modifier is dexterity, so for your thread and your dye, you would pick the plus 20 and plus 10 dexterity for your base stat. For our second cape, we're going to build out our TP cape. The purpose of this cape is to maximize your TP gain so we can weapon skill faster. Cranking in 11 is all about weapon skills, so the faster you can sling them, the better off you're going to be. The basic template for a TP cape is thread plus 20 dex, dust plus 20 attack/accuracy, sap 10% double attack, dye plus 10 dex, resin 5% damage taken reduction. Now you're probably thinking, why dexterity? Don't I want to hit harder with strength? No, the whole point of this cape is to build TP faster. Dexterity augments your accuracy, and so that's what you're going to go with. I should also note, a lot of people will pick accuracy for the dye category. You can get 10 accuracy. I am a dex fanboy, and that's because dexterity doesn't only increase your accuracy, it also increases your critical hit rate, so you kind of double dip with dex, so I picked dex. It is a little less than 10 straight accuracy, but still, I'm a dex fanboy. I will note that there are TP capes that will benefit more from store TP or dual wield 10 instead of the double attack, but that's a little bit more advanced and it's not something you're really going to need to worry about as a new player. I find focusing on multi-attack is king, and this double attack cape is going to do you right. Now, if you're short on materials and can only make one cape, I'd go with the weapon skill damage cape first and do the TP cape later. And I'll also note that the resin is very expensive. You could skip the resin for now to buy more of the other materials, because I think you'll get a bit more mileage out of having 2 capes that are nearly finished and just missing the resin versus just 1 cape that does have the damage taken reduction. But make sure to finish that resin when you can. And that's it. We've got our 2 most prominent capes. Now let's learn how to use them. You know, a new player with great ambuscapes is a lot like a mule with the spinning wheel. Nobody knows how he got it, and danged if he knows how to use it. But really, now that we have our 2 new ambuscapes, we gotta figure out how to properly use them. One of the best aspects of Final Fantasy XI is gear swapping. Unlike most MMOs where you just get your best set of armor and leave it at that, Final Fantasy XI allows you to swap your gear on the fly to maximize every single move that you do. I mean, why bother having a cape that maximizes TP cane and one that maximizes weapon skill damage if you're not going to swap them mid-fight? Welcome to Gearswap 101. We're going to show you the very basics of swapping gear with in-game gear sets, and we'll go over a couple macros that will make sure you swap your gear properly when engaging monsters and performing weapon skills. First, open up your gear sets under Main Menu, Macros, Edit, Equip Set. In this menu, we can set up entire sets of gear that we can swap into on the fly. For this example, we're going to keep it super simple. We're going to make a TP set and a weapon skill damage set where we only swap out our new Ambuscade capes. First, we'll set up our TP set. Click set number 1 and edit. It will open up a gear grid that looks just like the equip screen. Go to the back and set your double attack Ambuscade cape here. Don't worry about any of the other pieces right now. Back out, click that gear set again and change the name to something like Your Job TP. I'm on Dragoon, so I'll do Dragoon TP. Now click set number 2 to set up our weapon skill damage set. Go to back and set your weapon skill damage Ambuscade cape in this slot. Back out, click the set again and name it to something like Your Job and Weapon Skill. And I really can't emphasize enough how important it is to name your sets something that makes them easy to identify, because eventually you're going to just have way too many sets to navigate with just the generic names. And don't worry if you can't remember the number of the set, it's displayed at the top left corner for you. Now let's set up some macros to make sure you're equipping the sets at the correct time. Go to Macros, Edit Macros, and pick a bar. The first macro we want to make will attack a monster and equip our TP set. The macro will look like this: Line 1 / attack on, Line 2 / equip set 1. This macro will both attack whatever we have targeted and then immediately equip our equip set 1, which is our TP set. This will make sure you never forget to equip your TP set when you engage. Now let's make a macro to weapon skill with our weapon skill cape. Go to the next macro and enter a macro that looks like this: Line 1 / equip set 2, Line 2 / weapon skill, Savage Blade, T, Line 3 / weight 1, Line 4 / equip set 1. This macro will first put on your weapon skill set, perform Savage Blade, and then put you back into your TP set. The weight 1 line is very important because the game can only change gear sets 1 second at a time. If you forget the weight 1, you will not return into your TP set. And now let's go test it. I left my equip viewer on so you can see my cape changing. You see when we hit the attack macro, our cape changes. Now I'm going to change my cape to something else so you can see that it changes again when we weapon skill. And now that we've done our weapon skill, I'll show you, look, our cape is back to our TP cape. And that's it. Now you have a base TP and weapon skill set. As you get more gear, make sure to add it to your sets. Like if you went with the Salivia's feet, make sure to add them to your weapon skill set. And you will make a set for just about every single action you do in this game. If you do a job ability, you should be equipping pieces that accentuate that ability before popping it. If you're casting, you want pieces that improve the potency or the duration of the spell. Literally everything. But start simple, get the hang of it, and build out as you learn. Oh, and just another little nugget of knowledge before we move on. You can save the line in your macro where you put the /weight 1 by putting the weight in brackets on the line before, like this. But just note that if you have a lot of weights in a macro, and you hit another macro before the first macro goes through all of its steps, you're going to clip the first macro and interrupt it. So, you know, just be aware of that as you're making longer macros with weights and all that. All right, you made it to the end, and as usual, I want to drop a little bonus knowledge on you, and that is the importance of Abdhaljs seals and where to get them. When used, an Abdhaljs seal gives you a buff that will triple the amount of hallmarks and gallantry you receive for successfully completing an ambuscade. Once you apply the buff, you have 72 hours to complete an ambuscade to cash in the bonus. This can really speed up your farming, but there's only a limited number of Abdhaljs seals you can earn per month. So remember, you can get the one Abdhaljs seal from the total hallmarks category. In addition, under Records of Eminence Content Ambuscade, there is the Intense monthly objective that awards an additional seal per month for clearing an intense ambuscade on any difficulty. Then there's the Ambuscade weekly objective that awards 1 seal per week for clearing any ambuscade on any difficulty. And as a bonus, I'm going to let you in on a little secret. On the week of the monthly maintenance, you can actually cash in the weekly seal twice. The monthly maintenance resets the weekly objectives, so if you clear it before maintenance hits, you can set it again a second time when the servers come up. And when you're farming as much ambuscade as we are, guys, you need every advantage you can get, so make sure to lock in that extra seal. It really saves you some time. And that concludes our Ambuscade Primer Volume 3, Ambuscade Basics. We learned how, when, where, why to do Ambuscade. We learned about the rewards and how to prioritize them. We built a couple of capes. We learned how to use them. And we learned how to get an extra Abdhaljs seal. I hope you found this video helpful. We do this kind of thing daily over at twitch.tv/VeldnerXI starting at 5:30 Pacific time. Be there and be square.